up, guys? I am your host, Miss Y, and I have a very, very special guest in the house.
Hey.
What's your name? You telling the people what your name is?
Hi, people. My name is.
Okay, you didn't have to get a government. Nobody was saying to give the government. Anyways, I got my little brother DJ in the house. And I guess I'm going to start off with the fact that I just called you my little brother because you tried to come at my throat the other day.
You might as well just start over.
No, 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 no. We're not starting over. No, no, no. We're keeping this
Oh, what
in
a
there.
fail.
So, no, no,
This
no.
is horrible.
No, we're gonna keep this in here. Listen, this is a different platform. This is not questions that keep me up
Cut,
all night.
cut.
No,
Start right now.
no, this is off the cuff. You wanted to do a podcast. We are here with the pod. It's litty. This is how it's gonna go.
And that's all the time we have for today, folks.
No, the other day we're on the phone and you say, yeah, so such and such, it's somebody we know, says, yeah, so when did you guys become brother and sister?
Yeah.
I've been calling you my little brother. Where did you not hear that? Where it started is from your mom.
Yeah.
First of all, let's back it up.
Way back.
Your mom is legit my little sister's godmother.
Yeah, that is
She
true.
was named my little sister's godmother. Okay.
That's true. I think that was like '04 when that was established. Either like '04.
No, I graduated high school in '04. My little sister was born like 2 years before that.
Yeah, I was thinking 203.
Yeah. '02, '03. She's
Yeah,
gonna
that's
kill
what I
me
was
when she
thinking.
finds out. But I don't remember. But anyways, yes. So your mom was my mom's homie, right? That is legit her godmother. However, before that, let's back up. I don't know if you remember, but you were my little baby. I used to carry you on my hip.
Now that I don't quite I remember you trying to do that.
No, I distinctly remember downstairs at the church, I used to pick you up and used to have you on my hip. Now, we're not that many years apart, but when you're younger, the age gap is a little bit like more noticeable.
Yeah,
So,
because we're 11 years apart.
are we 11? Yeah. Yeah.
11.
So you don't remember that because you were a kid, but you can't take that away from me. You were my baby.
I feel like I would remember.
Ask AJ. He knows.
I feel like some of that may be fabricated just a little bit.
Absolutely not.
Just I remember you trying to, but I remember that not being so successful.
Are you kidding me?
Because let's see,
DJ, you only liked me.
uh, back
You didn't go
uh,
to anybody else at the church.
back in the day, how old was I? I had to be older than 6,
Yeah.
7, 6 or 7 years old. Wow, I feel so. That was 21 years ago.
Okay, you're making me feel old.
That was 21 years ago.
Anyways, my ego was hurt when you said that because I'm like, what am I, chopped liver? What do you think I am? It goes back to that. It goes back to me remembering we went to church together. You have two other brothers. In my opinion, I feel like out of everybody during that time, I think I
Yeah.
probably was like closer to you guys. I also was one of those kids that loved kids, always had all the kids.
Yeah.
So there was that. Then I remember I moved away and every time I would come back, we'd take pictures. It was like whatever. And then one time I came back and Mr. had a girlfriend and you were not trying to talk to me. I feel like I didn't even exist. I was like, whoa, AJ, what's going on here? What is going on here? So fast forward, I moved back for a while and I started working with your mom and we got a little closer. And she herself used to call you guys my little brothers. Like, I guess because we knew each other outside of the job. So we would
Yeah.
like kiki in her office and talk and whatever. And she would say that. And so I remember AJ saying something like, just recently when I was at the house or whatever, he's like, oh, yeah, I never had a sister. So, you're like the sister we never had.
That's really what he said.
Yeah. But I
What?
feel like it was just like that short 2-year time span that I spent there. And I
Yeah.
got a little closer to you guys.
Yeah.
So we spent a lot of time apart. And then you got married while I
Yeah.
was out there. And whenever I was around people that I didn't know, but your wife knew, she would be like, this is DJ's god sister. So fast forward a couple weeks ago, you acted brand new like you don't know me. Since when did we start calling each other brother and sister? So what's tea? What's wrong with you? Why are you disowning me?
Life be life, and people are in your life for a time, and then you move on, and then I guess some people roll back in, some people roll on.
So question, of course, everybody has a different memory of I thought my mom was fluent in Spanish for years, and I found out as an adult that she's not. I literally took 3 years of Spanish in college because I wanna be fluent in Spanish like my mom. So, of course, people's memory gets distorted.
Yeah.
What is your memory of us? What is your memory of our interaction when we were younger? And then fast forward to now. Obviously, there was a bit of a tragic thing that made us get closer,
Yeah.
but
Or several tragic things.
true.
I would say, well, some of the earliest things I remember were, of course, like some of the youth groups and groups plural, because of course, Naps being one.
Oh, yeah.
I remember the blue shirts that Naps had, Pathfinders.
Mhm.
I do remember some of the old pictures when you were in the drum corps, right?
Yeah, for a
Yeah,
little bit,
I
yeah.
remember that. Yeah, I remember it. Not for a long period of time, but I
No.
remember.
I played the snare.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember that
You hear
specifically.
that, guys? I had rhythm at one point in time.
Yeah, I remember that. And that's the thing. It's like it's not even like we were doing any of that stuff together, except
True.
for kind of naps because I would always be present whenever different seminarians would be there.
Right.
I remember the Friday night vesper, praise team stuff,
Mm.
the choir. I just remember you always like singing.
I was always involved.
Yeah, especially when it came to like AY or even just like Sabbath school.
Mhm.
Especially for the kids, you were always helping out.
Like, by the time you guys started to be really involved, we were gone.
Yeah, yeah,
So, we didn't grow up together.
right.
Because now that you said it, 11 years, that's a big gap.
Yeah,
So, essentially, I feel like there was a time where, like, you guys were really young, and then I left. Then I came back, and I was like, "Oh, you're all growing up," and then I left. And I came back, "Oh, you're all growing up," and then I left, and I came back, and you were like, "I'm too old for this."
it's crazy. Like how I guess as children, so to speak, we can do a lot of growing really in a very short span of time. And I think a lot of that happens in particular for the youngest children,
Mhm.
especially when there's like multiple siblings and then the youngest has to do a whole lot of catching up to the older siblings, or especially I don't know. Me personally, I felt like I constantly wanted to fit in with the older crowd,
Mm.
the older kids,
Mhm.
because I was always the youngest one. So if people would have mature conversations, I would always interject and
Mm.
chime in, and people were like, "Whoa, dude! Like you're some little kid. How do you know about all this stuff? Like you have a larger vocabulary." And I remember people constantly telling me that because
Mhm.
it's like you listen to what people talk about,
Yeah.
don't have a choice but to start having these mature conversations at like
Mhm.
10, 12 years old.
My mom always told me when I was trying to be in the mix, stay out of grown folks' business.
Yeah,
So it was like, and I think maybe that was why I was always the leader of the kids
yeah,
because I always was around older people. My mom was one of those people who was always at someone's feet, all the elders. She was always around older people.
yeah,
And she's always taught us to listen and be around older people, respect your elders, and always help. And so because I wanted to be in those spaces, kind of like you, I was in the middle. There was responsibility put on me, but you're still a kid,
right,
stay in a child's place. And so I was able to probably be more bossy or
mm,
be more in charge of my space when I was helping with the kids.
yeah.
Maybe that's why I don't want no kids to this day because kids got on my nerves.
I guess that worked out in your favor.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that I mean, I enjoyed the kids, but I think that that responsibility and it wasn't I don't even think that it was put on me by anybody. I think
Hmm.
I just took it on. Like, it was just something that fell in my lap, but I feel
Yeah,
like it was a responsibility nonetheless.
yeah,
I can actually count kids that I remember coming home from the hospital. I remember them coming home from the hospital, babysitting them, burping
yeah,
them, feeding them, changing them, those things. More than 2. So, that was like I know what colic is. I know, what gripe water is to help them like stop burping. Like I know what it
yeah,
is to the sauce. Like I know all these things, the cracking nipples, all that stuff. Even though I'm not a mother, I was there for all of that.
yeah,
So I think that was for me, made me at an early age understand the gravity of actually having a kid. And I was like, no, no, thank you.
yeah. Because I remember I would constantly see you holding some kid. Anytime I would walk out of church to go use the bathroom or anything, you would always be holding some kid, doing something, had some bottle or mixing some formula or doing something with a baby blanket or a stroller. Or I'm like, man, she always has kids.
It just, I don't, it was just a thing. I don't know. I need to explore that. I don't know.
You all There was like very seldom did you ever not have a kid when we were like coming to church like that.
That's weird. I do remember it like that too, but I don't know why that was though.
I guess he's just ended up being your duty.
You know, there's this new thing about babies. When they're new, they're like so cute and they're
Yeah,
crying, all that stuff. And then there's this time where they get super annoying. And as a kid, I could deal with that super annoying time. I remember their parent was having a hard time with them. And I'm like, no, no, no,
right.
let me do it. Like,
Yeah,
enjoyed that part of it. But
yeah,
now as an adult, no way.
yeah.
I don't even, I really don't even like being around babies. It's weird.
That sounds weird to hear you say because for the longest while it seemed like you just had that gift to just tolerate people's cranky, loud, messy children.
I think what it is, it's like no respecter of situations. I have the gift of trying to control a mess, whether it's babies, whether it's a project, whether it's a dirty kitchen, whether it's whatever. I have the ability to try to come in and control a mess.
Yeah.
But when it really comes down to it, the older I get, I'm learning that I'm less of a people person, less of a noise person. I don't tolerate, like, if I can't make you be quiet in like 10 minutes and you're still one of those crying babies, you got to get out of my face.
Mm,
It just maybe also because I'm really busy a lot of times. But
yeah.
speaking of kids, big shift. Well,
Yeah. When are you having kids?
oh, wait a minute. Don't you do the reverse. Oh no. Hold a second. This was geared to you. And I'm not having kids. Let's just put that out there.
Never say never.
I'm not having kids. No. I mean, if I have some that I call my kids that I feel I take responsible for. But what people don't understand, a kid is not a dog. A kid is not an accessory. They they are here for life.
That's right.
You have to worry about their safety, their salvation,
Yeah.
their literacy, their understanding,
Yeah.
like all of that. And even when they're gone, they're not gone. The worry, the frustration, the heaviness, all of that is still there on you.
Yeah.
It's not like something to enter into lightly. As a matter of fact, I feel like it's the same on the same level as a marriage covenant. And I think people don't pay attention to that. It's like they know the sequence. You get married, you have kids, right? And then even if they didn't want that, people pressure them into that sequence. Like, guys been married for a year, been married for 2 years. When you're gonna have a little bun in that oven? It's like it's that's how society pressures you into it. But then society is not there to pick up the pieces when you have postpartum depression, when you don't know what to do, when you don't want to quit your job, but your husband's job pays more and maybe you need to stay at home with the kids or the school's not teaching. Like, nobody's picking up those pieces. They just want to
Right.
you to be like, oh, let me get you a good baby shower gift. Yeah, that all of that plus the way this world is going, I'm good. There's people that are already here that need help. I'll work on that. I don't think I want to bring anybody in. No, there's no think. I'm not bringing anybody into this world.
Never say never.
Well, let's talk about it. I've had a hysterectomy. Okay.
What that got to do with the price of cheese?
I cannot biologically have a child. Okay. Now, why would I then, if I don't actually want to have a child, go and pay thousands of dollars to have somebody surrogate my child? Please help me make that make sense.
Well, if you ever change your mind, we don't know what the future holds. What if the government says, okay, anybody that conceives gets 30K in their bank?
Okay, let's talk about that. We were just talking about OnlyFans. I cannot be bought. Why would I want the government to determine me having a kid just because they're going to give me money?
$1 million?
Absolutely not. I'll be poor till the day I die.
10 mil?
Absolutely not.
Get out of here.
Are you kidding me? You can be bought. I see it in your eyes.
That's not a bad deal. 10 mil? Come on. Come on.
Okay, I'm not gonna go there. You would have a kid. You would bring a child into this world.
I
Right
mean,
now, the way life is for 10 million and ruin their life.
well, okay, yeah, the ruining their life part, that's just simply just morally wrong. I mean, that obviously goes against the golden rule. Like, I knew that the only reason why I was brought into this world was because somebody was getting $10 million out of it.
Hello?
I wouldn't be too fond of that idea.
Okay,
Obviously.
okay, thank you. Let's start there and then go backwards. Now, would you take 50, 10, whatever $1 million to have a kid?
If that was the sole only reason, probably not.
Okay, that's it. That's what we're talking about. Don't make it make sense. That's what we just said. I would not do that.
Probably not. It would be tempting, but probably not.
Question. You know how they talk about girls? from a kid, they planned out their wedding, they do all this stuff. What do guys do? What were you thinking about? Were you thinking about, I can't wait to get married. I don't know what she's going to look like. Oh, we're going to have this many kids, 2.5 kids and a dog and a picket fence. Like, what were you thinking about as a guy growing up?
Growing up, well, things really changed. Things really changed a lot at different phases of my life. Always idolized movies. I don't know why, just romance movies and just things like that. I kind of had an obsession with. And then as I got into my teen years, like literally the day I hit 13, I was like, this is all junk. None of this happens in real life.
Right.
Oh, you go to the park and you meet some young lady and fall in love and you just live life happily ever after and it's just all love and butterfly. Like that's all junk. Like nobody does that in real life. And the reason why I say that is because for whatever reason, every experience that I had was just something mediocre, and it just seemed like, well, I guess life is what I made it,
Mhm.
and I can't even say I guess life is what I made it. That's what it is. Life was what I made it. I robbed myself of opportunities as a result of having the mentality that, oh, there's nothing out there. So in a way, I made a box to put myself into for my own mental
Wait, let's
security.
go back. You started with this
Yeah,
fairy tale ideas until you turned 13.
yeah,
And then you were like, that's not true. That
right.
doesn't work. So there's nothing for me.
Yeah, I was like, "That's all fake, so chuck it," and I'm just gonna stay to myself. I don't believe in none of these fairy tales, none of this movie junk.
Hmm.
It's just all for entertainment. I'm just gonna do me, and I'm never gonna find anybody. I just gave up 100%.
So, I mean, how does that work? You growing up in a Christian household, and the reason why I'm asking that is my mother was like, "No, you're not watching this. No, you're not watching this." And then if she would catch us watching something, she'd be like, "Now you know this is this because this," and that doesn't actually happen. And to me, it ruined shows and it ruined TV for me. But it
Mm,
also gave me this reality check very young
mm,
that this stuff doesn't work. And for me, what I always hated about rom coms or romantic comedies is that it would end at the marriage. But I
yeah,
knew,
uh,
hey, I didn't have a dad.
yeah,
So what happens after that? So
yeah,
I knew it ended at the marriage. So I was always searching for that movie that would show me
mm,
what happens after they got married. So
right,
at a very young age, that's what I was searching for. Growing up in a Christian household, you had two parents. Your parents were together. Why was your measure romantic comedies as opposed to what you saw or what they presented for you?
I've never actually considered the way you phrased it because a lot of what I saw growing up, I guess in the home, so
Mhm.
to speak, was more of kind of like a more of like a business partnership and just like just family. There was no romance.
Mm,
There really wasn't much of that. It was just kind of sort of we're working,
mm,
we're making this work, and we're family. Like
mhm,
this is there's no real need to do anything super special and over the top. I mean, yeah, every once in a while, like we would throw birthday parties or, my parents would celebrate anniversaries and things like that. Outside of that, like, nice dinner for a birthday. Outside of that, there was no like romance and feelings and emotion and
mm.
chemistry and pheromones and
Wow.
my head is in a cloud. I feel like time just melts away. There was none of that. Like, when I look in your eyes, I just see stars. I never saw any of that.
Right.
Any of that. I never heard any of that. And honestly, the only time I heard that junk was in movies, like either movies or romance novels, stuff like that. I got really bored of pretty quickly because I was like, this is all junk. It's all fake.
Well, because you never saw any of that, did that make you go search for it in those movies, you think? Or it was just that that's something that everybody was watching?
I don't even think I got a chance to search for it. Well, it could be largely because of how sheltered I was growing up.
Mhm.
Don't really know how I would have went about trying to search for that.
Right. Gotcha.
I don't think I would have even had any opportunity to go search for that, especially not back then. No way back then.
Yeah.
I mean, the only social interaction I really had, considering I was homeschooled, was either like random people in the grocery store
Mhm.
or through church
Right.
or through like family friends. So a few times when I may have, that got shot down pretty quick.
Do you feel like you were robbed? This is really interesting to me because the fact that you say, like, you didn't see romance, you didn't
Yeah.
see that, I didn't see that. I don't know too many people my age that saw that. And then you go to Hollywood and we see it everywhere.
Yeah.
And But we go to Hollywood in movies, we see it everywhere. But in Hollywood proper,
Mm,
they're always breaking up and making up and breaking up and making up.
yeah,
So it ends up telling you that in reality, there is no romance.
right.
In reality, there is no happily ever after. It
Yeah,
really is just a business deal.
yeah,
You get together, you make a family, and then you guys just grow together.
yeah.
Is that depressing to you, or is that just life?
I would say it's kind of more life and looking at it from the outside looking in, like looking at it from someone else's perspective. I guess it could seem depressing because, in my head it kind of is monotone. It's kind of really gray, so to speak. It's like, no, no, we're not here for fun. We're not here to have a good time and feel good. This is work. If it hurts, there's no pain, no gain.
But isn't that everything in life? So why can't you have a piece of something? Like, isn't that like you go to work and it's like, okay, well, it's not to play, it's work. So you can't like it. Okay, it's work, right? You go to school, you work hard. It's like, well, you only have fun at recess. Like what else in life? And then even I don't know how you felt, but growing up in church, to me, that was not fun.
Mm,
Now, don't get me wrong. There were times that were fun. And
mm,
actually, I had a lot of adventures. The adventures that I had when I was younger was because of church, was because of Pathfinders or naps, traveling and things like that. But the core of it to me was not fun. It was work.
right.
So that if you're church, school, and work, everything is work. And then at home, you got chores and it's work.
Yeah.
What do you look forward to? Did you ever think when you started dating that was it just when you started dating, was it just like, okay, this is so that I can have the family unit like my mom and dad has? This is so I can have the business relationship?
Yeah.
Or were you like, yeah, about to have some fun?
Well, that's when it changed because I would say probably from 13 to 17, like 13 to 17, I was like, no, like I'm not here for the fun. I'm not here for the ups and downs and the roses and lilies. Like I'm here to find a partner.
Mhm,
Or I wasn't even necessarily looking. I kind of sort of just gave up. I was like, okay, if everybody is out here to have fun, I'm not down with that. I'm
mhm,
here to work. I'm
mhm,
here to support a family, build a connection.
mm.
You know what I mean? And if anybody wants to come along with that, that's cool. But this is what I'm looking for.
Mm.
Yeah, that's where I was between 13 and 17. Obviously, course of actions changed that. And my
Right.
focus shifted after that period. But yeah, that's where I was from like 13 to 17.
That's interesting hearing that from a guy's perspective in the church, from a guy's perspective growing up who had two parents. And like people would say I had two parents. I met my stepdad when I was 12, 11 or 12. But I feel like I was so resentful for most of that time that I didn't see him as a parent. I didn't see him as a parent until I was actually an adult. And then we were past the parental stage where he was like a friend to me. So
I see.
it was like for a long time, that was my buddy,
Yeah.
but it wasn't like
Yeah.
not a parent. And so even when there was discipline, I was seeing my mom and that guy
Yeah.
until I took a step back and it was like, wow, like he has really done a lot for us. And
Yeah.
he really stepped in, you know, when my dad was not there.
Yeah.
And so, yes, he's my parent, but it didn't click until I was an adult. So for me, it doesn't feel like I grew up in a two-parent household, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. That's interesting. Very, very, very interesting.
And then I'm curious, like my little sister obviously grew up in a two-parent household.
Yeah.
I feel like the way, and this is my opinion, I don't know if this is true for her, but I feel like the way she moves in life
Mm.
is with a little more freedom, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
A little
Definitely.
more allowance because of the picture that she saw or because of the cocoon that she had.
Yeah.
But that does not mean, and I don't know, I can't speak for her, but that doesn't mean she saw a picture of romance and all of those things. So
Yeah.
that's just very curious. So moving forward, if you want to touch on this, you don't have to, in your decision to get married, even though you said things changed, once you finally decided to get married, did you think like, okay, the fun's over. It's just about to be back to business because that's what a marriage looks like outside of your parents, you saw your aunts and uncles, you saw other people. Did you ever think you saw a measure of something you wanted and then you want to pick that? instead?
No, not necessarily, and I'm trying my best to make sure that I understand the question, 'cause
I said 2 questions, it was kinda convoluted.
yeah, that's a loaded question. I feel like I'm getting the gist of it.
Okay, so first, I'm saying,
Yeah,
first you were like, "Hey, this is garbage. It
yeah,
doesn't work, and everybody's out here to have fun. So if you're not here to be serious, stick in and have a family,
yeah,
then I don't want it." And then you said, obviously, that kind of thought pattern changed.
right.
But then you decided to get married. When you decided to get married, did your mind snap back to like, okay, it's business time now? Or did you see other, not your parents, but other marriages that you thought maybe, maybe that's a little bit different. Maybe I'll model it after that.
No, not necessarily so much the second option. Really, the first thing that you were saying kind of sort of just like, okay, yeah, it's time to crunch down and get serious. And for a while, I kind of thought I was being an extremist until I started to understand really healthy masculinity and why men think the way they think. I mean, obviously, like, no two men are the same, but
Hmm.
one thing that the majority of men from my generation, at least I can say, share in common is that we look for commitment and just commitment. And I want to say, what's the word I'm looking for?
Maybe like loyalty.
There you go. There you go. Commitment and loyalty just set such a solid foundation. Like, it wasn't everything, but those were the two huge contributing factors that were fundamental in marriage and just goals and is what I wanted out of life.
When you say for men, are you saying you are looking for that in a partner, or you saying for you, you need to bring commitment and loyalty?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for, and that's what I really felt like I needed to bring to the table.
So that means it doesn't matter how that looks. It's just commitment and loyalty.
It it did matter how that looked. Obviously, I didn't want to have a very mundane.
Okay, that's what I'm getting to. Cause
Yeah,
cause cause initially that's what you're seeing.
yeah,
And that's what you think it's supposed to be. I guess what
yeah,
I'm getting to is like, I don't think a lot of people get married anymore, right? And for a long time, people got married and they stayed in it, whether it was whack or not.
yeah,
And whether it was working or not,
yeah, for better or for
for
worse.
better or for worse. And I actually had someone recent that I've always looked up to him, somebody that I've known for a long time, and he's like told me like, yeah, I've changed my outlook on marriage. It's a business deal.
Yeah,
And he also said, and it's okay if it ends. And he said that sometimes it's not that it has to be bad. It's like in that space, that's what worked for then, and now it doesn't work. But for me, I can't get behind that because it's a covenant. If you
mhm,
don't want the covenant, just don't ever get married.
right,
Because
yeah,
in my head, I could have a good life single, honey. I mean, like you can have fun. You don't have to do it if you
yeah,
don't want to,
yeah. That is
right?
true. That
Like
is true.
even the loneliness factor, like you can always have friends, you can always
Yeah,
do whatever. You don't have to do it, but when you do it, like I feel like it should have every component. You have to
yeah,
have fun.
yeah. You got to.
You have to have romance.
Yeah,
If you don't, he gonna have it with somebody else.
right. It's just like you're gonna have romance one way or
You're
another.
gonna have it. Like it's, and I don't know if it's because we pattern our lives so much after movies and we think that that has to happen. I remember going over it with you a while back, this book called The Mirage of Marriage.
Mhm.
And in that book, it talks about how like that's a myth
Yeah,
that marriage has to be like romantic and stuff like that. But I mean, I feel like if you're gonna do it, why not do it to your benefit instead of
yeah.
your detriment, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's only gonna be better if it's special.
Right.
If you want a business deal and that's all you want out of life, like, you don't have to get married to conduct a business deal.
I mean, and to each his own. There are people that literally get married as a business deal.
Yeah, and
There
that
are
works out
people
great.
who have arranged marriages,
Yeah,
and sometimes that's not their choice. And actually, it works out in the end.
right.
They learn to love each other. And I'm not opposed to that either. Like, I'm not
Yeah,
opposed to any of that. But I mean, I just think for both of our situations, I think that we didn't grow up with a good measure. And I don't think people talk about that often.
yeah, that is true. I do see a huge contrast. Like, people from before our generation, they were just built so much different. Their mindsets were obviously very different. I mean, the world was different as a whole. And now, just the simple fact that if somebody says something that you don't like, you automatic divorce papers. Just,
Yeah, yeah,
oh, well, they overslept by 5 minutes,
yeah.
made me late for work. So,
Right.
automatic divorce papers.
Yeah. One thing that keeps me I was talking to a friend of mine, and I was telling her, there are things that annoy me about my partner, but then what if he's gone tomorrow?
Yeah.
I would want that annoyance back so bad.
Yeah.
Like, I would want everything that annoys me, I want that, You can't get it back when it's gone.
Right.
And yeah, I know you can't live your life in fear, right? But I think I keep that kind of in the forefront of my head
Yeah.
because I am somebody who has a lot of pet peeves, somebody who gets annoyed very easily. But I purposed, like I was on purpose, like with this person, I'm not going to let it bother me. Everybody else, maybe. But you have to figure out where the line is when it comes to that. Let's shift gears because I feel like this is going into some uncharted waters. Or they've been chartered, but we don't want to go back there. So let's shift gears. Let's talk about you growing up, being homeschooled, not going to traditional school, but still very well educated, self educated, kind of, very handy, very versatile. What do you think about the way you grew up hindered you? And what do you think about the way you grew up helped you in the context of homeschool, not having really like those social interactions?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I don't have anything to hide. When it came to certain school subjects, I got by. I mean, just certain things in general in life, like some of my biggest flaws is that I just get this is me as a whole, full disclaimer. I get to a point where I'm just gonna do the bare minimum just so I can get by. I just hold myself back in terms of wanting to do more than the bare minimum and actually excel to my full potential and what I can do. So there's been certain school subjects that I'm okay, I get the basic concepts. That's all I'm gonna need out of life. I don't need to know full quadratics or quantum equations. I don't need to crack down scientific math. I don't need algebra 3. Algebra 2 is about the most I've messed around with, which I found it kind of amusing that people who have PhD degrees can barely do basic level algebra 1.
Because they're not focusing on that.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, in a way, that kind of made me feel better because for a while I kind of told myself, homeschoolers automatically have the stigma of, oh, well, yeah, yeah, I wish I was homeschooled. That way I could sit around all day and do absolutely nothing.
Right.
But I mean, I can't speak on other homeschoolers. Me, no. Yeah, I actually did have to learn algebra. I did have to learn Spanish. I did have to learn history. I did have to learn, chemistry, things like that. Half of that stuff, I'm sure I didn't, resonate with too. Half of that stuff, I'm not still as sharp as I was when I was going through
Yeah.
it, passing the test. But if I hear things like the equilibrium
Mhm.
or the table of,
Yeah, I don't know. I got a D minus in chemistry. At least I know it's chemistry.
yeah, chemistry was never my sharp point. But when people start talking about okay, help me out here,
The
the
table
table
of
of,
That's why I said yeah, because I got a D minus. I don't know. Table of something. It ain't table of contents.
not the table of contents. But
Wait, the table of child, you got a master's degree. What's wrong with you?
I feel the same way.
The table of
It's funny, I just had the same conversation too. I obviously, just like I said, I held myself back in terms of, okay, I'm not gonna use Google for this.
no, we have to figure this out.
It'll come back to
Ionic
periodic table.
periodic
Bam!
table.
There you
Yes.
go.
Okay.
See, I'm not stupid. There
Hey,
you
I'm
go.
telling you right now, I got a D minus in chemistry. And the only thing that I remember in chemistry from Washington High School is Mr. I don't even know his name. The only thing I remember from that class is that my instructor used to cuss a lot. And people be like, ooh. So then one time he said sugar honey iced tea, and they were like, ooh. And then he's like, okay, I'm not gonna do it again. And then he did something, he hurt his hand, and he was like, Scheisse. And it's like, and then somebody in the class was like, hey, I speak German. I know what you just said. That's the only thing I remember from that chemistry class.
Yeah.
That's it. I never had to take chemistry again. I barely made it out of high school when it came to math. I barely made it out of high school when it came to science. I too was homeschooled, but I think my mom was like way ahead of her time. Like she was homeschooling us before we even were supposed to be in school. Like she was making us write reports and all that kind of stuff before we were even supposed to be in school. But back to what you were saying. You know the basics.
Yeah, and then after the basics, I kind of sort of held myself back because some of this stuff when it gets complex, it's like, bro, who needs to? I'm never gonna need any of this crap ever in life. Like, yeah, sure. If I'm like on Jeopardy
Mhm.
or some crap, and oh yeah, what's the third element of the periodic table? Some junk. Like, yeah, I'll spew that out. But come on, I'm not gonna go to the moon and have to go break down complex. Yeah, I understand, when it comes to things like, well, you need to understand that, the very design of the computer that you're using or the microphone that we're speaking into, complex mathematics went into the design of this. And if it wasn't for scientists and Isaac Newton going to crack down these major math equations, then we wouldn't have electricity.
But am I correct that you could pretty much build a computer?
Yeah,
Like you can build a house.
yeah,
You can put a car together.
right.
Like I mean, no, and I'm not saying you as in like anybody can. No, I'm talking about my brother. He can literally put together a computer. He can put together a car, and you have helped build your family home.
Yeah,
So even though you don't know quantum physics,
it,
you know how to put together this stuff.
yeah.
I remember when I went to Kenya, we went to the country and we were having a celebration for my grandfather. And the microphone kept going out. Like it was just like a bad, funky wire or whatever. And then
Mm,
the microphone went out and the speaker. I watched this man take just a regular knife, strip the thing. I don't know what he did. Tap, tap, tap some wires together, do this little rig stuff,
yeah,
and it was working again. And it's like when you don't have all the materials, you figure out how to
yeah,
do it.
yeah.
It's not always school. Now, don't get me wrong. What I do think, and I don't know necessarily about elementary school, high school, but elementary school and high school get you to college. What I think is that college and university help you understand how to be in a room with someone. It
Yes.
helps you understand how to argue without being upset.
Right,
It
right,
helps you
right.
understand that there are different perspectives and
Yeah.
that there are different people out there than just you and how you were raised. It's not
Mm,
that I learned statistics or economics or things like that, but I learned to sit down and study and then regurgitate what I studied and
exactly.
then talk to my peers about it and see their different perspectives and realize
Right.
we could look at the same page, the same book, and get two
Different
different things
ideas.
out of it.
Exactly.
If you don't go to some type of school, you don't really get that. You're
Right,
not
right.
exposed to that.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you didn't get exposed to the to different personality to like 'cause you said you were sheltered. I was sheltered. I was
Mm,
definitely sheltered, even though I went to public school. But in
yeah.
my home, I was definitely sheltered.
Mm.
Do you feel like you didn't get that avenue to be able to flesh out things?
Yeah, a little bit. A little bit. I mean, I did spend a little bit of time, like after school programs, doing classwork with other students from different schools. I know that might sound kind of ridiculous,
No.
but just because my parents were really close friends with other educators in the school system, a lot of the after school programs I would spend time in. So I was able to get a little bit of exposure of what it would be like to not be homeschooled. Obviously, I know that's different to actually being enrolled and,
Mhm.
participating in the actual school system other than being homeschooled. I understand they're not the same thing. But what I'm really getting at is that it's not to say that I was literally at home for years and years and years doing absolutely nothing.
Right. Okay.
Like, I was one to actually like pick the brains of other kids to see the similarities and the patterns. Actually have conversations with people. Exposure.
Yeah.
Like literally that. So I mean, yeah, in a way I did feel as if some of that was missing. Something that surprised me though was the self-awareness of, okay, yeah, there's a potential something that my childhood is missing. So I was aware of that. But what surprised me was how many people my age I met that felt the same way about being in the school system and not having the
Mm.
exposure.
So they were in the school system, but they felt like something was missing.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Which I would frequently Well, I guess after a while, I stopped being surprised because I came to the realization that, I mean, it's a choice that you make. I mean, just because you go to school doesn't mean you're going to learn. Just because you're around other people that don't think the same way as you doesn't mean that you're going to be able to acknowledge and realize that different people think different ways.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I hated school. I absolutely hated school. I could not wait to leave school. What I do remember when I was younger of my biological father. And I don't know if this was, again, here we go with like memories and how we remember stuff, but I remember him always telling people like, "Well, these girls are smart." Like they were reading the newspaper at 3 years old. Like I feel like he was always brag to people about that. And I've always had it in my head that I was smart. And so because I was told I was smart and I was being bragged on, I had to be smart. But then that was juxtaposed to my mom. My mom was homeschooling like some other young kids, and she used to teach me. And she would be like, "You know this," and I don't. The only thing I remember is all crying all the
Hmm.
time, and I would feel like I wasn't living up to being smart because I didn't know the math. And she would ask me a question, and I didn't know the answer, and I was crying. And then sometimes I did know the answer, but because I felt like she was punishing me with work, I would fake like I didn't know the answer, and I would be even more mad. I felt like education was a punishment.
Yeah.
And then when I went to private school from whatever I can remember when I was younger until 6th grade, 6th or 7th grade, 7th grade maybe. Then I was in public school. Well, because private school was a little bit harder, public school came so easy. So I'm like, oh, I am smart. Like it's like I should be in honors classes and things like that.
Yeah.
But when I went to high school, I was placed in honors classes, but I wasn't in honors level like in my head. And not so much that I couldn't do it, but I didn't have the study skill set. I didn't have the drive to study. So I remember one time, I think there was race that played a part in it as well. I felt like when other kids asked questions, they were readily answered. I asked a question, and I remember distinctly in my geometry class, she said, "This is an honors class. You should know that already." I said, "Okay, I got your number. I ain't asking again." And I almost flunked. I refused to ask. And I didn't care. I was just sitting in the class. So I got pushed down to like, I was in advanced placement classes. I got pushed down to honors. And after honors, I got pushed down to regular class.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I want to get out of this thing. So to me, school sucked. I could not wait to get out. It wasn't until I went to college that I like feel like I flourished and I started loving learning. I enjoyed it. I was sitting at the front of the class. I was spending hours upon end doing research and stuff like that because it was like my choice. Switching gears. You're an adult now.
I don't want to be.
Really?
I mean, sometimes I don't want to be. Honestly, sometimes, yeah, sometimes I don't want to be. But a lot of times I am glad that I am because, I mean, I really don't live life with regrets. And I just want to move forward. I don't want to go backward. I mean, who in their right mind wouldn't want to have a steady stream of income and not have to work for it?
That's true. That's true. I mean, kids have a steady stream of income, their parents' income. They don't work for it.
Right.
But I mean, I regret the naps. When I was a
Mhm.
kid, I didn't want to take naps. Now,
Oh, I thought you were talking about the program because I was like, what?
what? No, 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 naps. No,
I was like, what?
no, 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 no. I'm not talking about NAPS, National Association for the Prevention of Starvation. That is a group that we were in when we were younger. No, I'm not talking about
I was like, hold on.
that.
Don't you dare.
No, I regret not taking naps when I was a kid
Me too.
because I want naps so bad.
Yeah.
To the point now, like, I get on the plane before we're even off the ground, I'm asleep. Like, I'm just tired all the time.
Yeah.
But that's the only thing I regret. I'm not gonna lie. I like my life so much better now. I hated childhood. I don't think I liked my teenage years. I couldn't wait to get to college. And I had a lot of fun in my 20s.
Hmm.
I'm not gonna lie. I enjoyed my 20s, but I don't want to be that young and dumb anymore.
Yeah.
I like exactly where I am, except I wish I was a bit further along finance wise.
Yeah.
And we were talking about that as
Yeah.
far as the stream of income. It's 2025. People are making money on OnlyFans. People are making money on YouTube. People are making money just doing any and everything
In their sleep.
in their sleep, right? And I know you were joking, but I'm seriously like saying, I can't be bought. I'm not going to do like random stuff to get paid.
Yeah.
However, I feel like I've been working my butt off since I was 14.
Yeah.
And I was just on a weekend with my mom and my sister, and I'm looking at these pictures, and I'm like, dude, I don't even look, I'm young, but I don't look young.
Yeah.
Like I look tired. And then my mom said something today to me that clicked. She says it all the time, but when she said it today, it hit me. She was just like, I really wish you could just stop working so hard. And it kind of clicked that time for some reason.
Mm,
And I was like, yeah, I think I want that too.
yeah.
So, streams of income, like there's money out there. There's
Yeah.
money out there in 2025. Do you think the presidency now and moving forward that we have is going to limit, because people are getting money like in crazy ways?
Yeah.
Do you think the presidency is going to limit that, limit the opportunities that we have? Am I getting in the game too late? Like, did I just get my LLC too late? Like, or do you think that there's still opportunity? Is America still the place that we can get that done?
I mean, America's always been someplace that, I mean, sad to say, I mean, I know a lot of people are going to hate it, but you have to have cheat codes.
Hmm.
You have to hack in order to get by, or not even to get by, in order to get ahead. You have to. Some people will disagree, and I mean, somebody prove me if I'm wrong. I mean, the people who will disagree are the people who have been set so far pretty good.
You said the people who will disagree that you have to have a cheat code have been set up good,
Yeah,
meaning they were born with a silver spoon in their mouth.
pretty much.
But they pretty much have cheat codes.
Exactly. They may not call their cheat codes cheat codes. For example, obviously Roth IRAs, IUL, whatever you want to call it, or even like little hacks. Like, as soon as your child is born, you open a line of credit in your child's name. You start saving for college even before the child is born.
Hello?
And when you're doing stuff like that, there is no, oh no, where are we gonna get money? We have to have an open house and invite all your rich friends and invite all your rich friends' parents. No, there's none of that. This is already set and it's good to go.
Can we talk about that? Why don't we do that?
We don't want to do that. We'll upset a whole bunch of people.
No, we need to talk about that because this is what pisses me off. All right, let me change my tip bow because I don't want to. I'm not trying to bust anybody out, but if you do it, if you do it once, you say, that didn't quite work.
Yeah.
Okay, you do it again, that didn't quite work.
Right.
Like the next time, when are we gonna learn? Is it that nobody's teaching us? And I don't know if you identify, because I know that your family's Caribbean. You don't really, I don't know if you identify as a black person, but do you feel like that nobody's teaching that? Because I mean, people are opening line of credits in their kid's name, but not like that.
Yeah.
They're using their social security numbers, they're getting tax money back, but they're not doing what they're supposed to do with that. What do you think, that's a hack, or it's just a like it's just something it's just knowledge that we're supposed to know?
Yeah, I really think it's knowledge that it's in plain sight, and honestly speaking, it's best hidden in plain sight. Because if it was under lock and key, you already know people would be busting the door down to get to it. So
Wait, you just said something crazy right there. That's kind of crazy on a lot of levels.
yeah,
So like when something's prohibited, people bust doors down to get it.
yeah,
But when it's open, it's free, but people don't necessarily know it.
yeah. Which I
That's
think
crazy.
that's pretty sad because this stuff it's literally out there. There is no secret.
You can find anything.
No secret at all. It's in plain sight. Just the literally like the way to succeed. It is in plain sight. People do it every day. It's nothing new. Nothing new. And as much as people will shut me down for it, going to school, getting a degree, working a blue collar job, you have a very low likelihood, very small window of being able to get ahead doing so. I'm not saying that that can't happen. I know plenty of people who've done it and have gotten ahead, but that leaves out so much.
But they do it for a short period of time
Yeah.
and then they move on.
I mean, yeah, you can do it, but if you're doing it, there's so many people who are going to get their cut out of all that hard work that you're putting in.
Right. I mean, let's just take me for example. I've seen people like you live in the Midwest, the older people at Walmart, the greeters, and you're like, why aren't you home?
Yeah.
Like, why aren't you? They can't retire, right?
Right.
And so I have not worked nearly as long as they have, but I've been
Mm,
working since I was 14,
mm,
and not just one job. I've been working 2 and 3 jobs and going to school for a big chunk of that time since I
yeah.
was 14 years old. I love to be busy, But I think it's born out of the fact that I need the money.
Yeah.
And I've also told myself that you're not going to say no to that trip.
Mm.
You're not going to say no, you can't go see your mom. You're not going to say no, you can't celebrate this person because you don't have the money. So you're
Yeah.
just going to work your butt off a little harder
Right.
and get the money to do it. And I don't think people understand that. They look at me like, oh, you must be making good money. You flying all over the place. Well, you must be making good money. You eat McDonald's every day. Like, I don't eat McDonald's every day. So my McDonald's money goes to trips.
There you go.
You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, however, I do want to stop working so hard if I don't have to.
Right.
I'd rather pour myself into my podcast. I'd rather pour myself into my management business. I'd rather pour myself into helping my mom make her business jump off the ground. And I am that person with 4 degrees. It's just sitting there collecting dust. So I agree with you. I don't think in 2025 it's room to be sending your kids to school to go to college to get a degree that's not going to help you do anything
Yeah.
unless you're going to be an astrophysicist or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, you got lucky. You go to school for 2 years, get a degree that makes you $800,000 a year. I mean, all the power to you. I
Yeah.
hope you're able to. Well, I mean, what I hope for those people that do that, I hope that they're able to pay off that degree relatively quickly before it stacks a bunch of debt.
Yeah, that's the problem. And I just heard Trump is coming after us who haven't been
Cha-ching.
paying. I guess he's going to start garnishing my wages.
Yeah, y'all can have fun with that.
You didn't have to deal with that,
Y'all can have all the fun with that.
huh? Do you have any closing remarks for the people? We have gone through the gamut of topics.
Topic after topic after topic. My question for you.
Here we go. What do you want? See, this is what I told this boy before we got on this podcast. I want to steer this thing because I'm scared of what comes out of his mouth sometimes. And this is not the platform for that. So be wise. Be very wise. Go ahead, ask your question.
If you could, I know this is on a different level. If
Okay.
you could interview anybody on your podcast tomorrow, who would your top three people be?
If I could interview anybody on my podcast,
Yeah.
anybody.
Anybody in the whole wide world.
Hmm.
You could only choose three.
Which one? Survivor's Residuum or Questions That Keep Me Up All Night? Because it's two different podcasts, honey. You got to get into it. All right. Which one?
Questions that keep you up all
So, Questions That Keep Me Up All Night is about things that I have in my head that I just want to get out. I need to pick people's brain about. And that's why I do it as a panel discussion. But
night.
sometimes I do just have one person that I interview. So, top 3 people. If I could interview anybody. Okay, people are going to hate me for this. Shaq is my top.
Okay, okay. Didn't see that one
I've
coming.
been loving Shaq forever.
Mm,
Okay. His no free throw shooting behind. I love Shaq. Okay. But also, he is an entrepreneur
yeah,
and
most
he is
definitely.
a really good entrepreneur.
Yeah,
And there's a lot that I feel like I could learn.
yeah.
Um, and he's funny and he's goofy. Like I don't know. I would love the opportunity to interview Shaq. Now, if I ever got the opportunity to interview Shaq, I would hope that I am not sitting in my kitchen with a singular microphone in front of my computer. I would hope that I have upgraded.
yeah,
But yeah, that would be one.
yeah. It's a good choice.
Number 2. A lot of people are not gonna know who this is, but Shah Rukh Khan, that would be my number 2.
Okay.
He is a Bollywood actor. He's
Mm,
old school. He has been in the game for years. And even though, yes, it's one genre, I've seen him in so many films.
yeah.
I- he is somebody that can captivate a whole screen. I don't even know how to describe it. The one thing we were talking about how the rom coms and stuff when we were like, oh, this sucks, it doesn't really happen. What I love about Bollywood films and just a lot of Indian films in general, because they're not all Bollywood, is that they're long as all get out. But
6, 7
because they're
hours.
long,
Part one,
three,
part eight.
four, three, four. But because they're long, they tell you what happens after the wedding.
Mm,
And that's what I love.
yeah.
It gets to it's the fun part gets to the wedding and then the tragedy hits. And then the thing like that's what I love about India.
Mm,
Shah Rukh Khan, I would love to interview him.
that's a good choice.
I would love to interview him.
That's a really interesting choice.
And last but not least, do they have to be alive?
No, not necessarily.
Can I get 3 more if they have to be if they're not
3 more?
I have 3 dead people that I would love to interview.
Man, that's quite a bit.
But if they don't have to be alive, Maya Angelou.
Okay, okay.
My aunt introduced poetry to me through her when I was a
Mm,
kid. She made us read her poem titled Woman's Work, and then we had to write a poem called Woman's Work and just write it in the same type of cadence.
yeah,
And then I started following her and just became larger than life. And I actually had an opportunity to, Nancy Pelosi is.
yeah.
I had an opportunity to speak at they put coins into circulation and they
Mhm.
had a Maya Angelou coin and Nancy Pelosi spoke there and I got to do her poem in front of Maya Angelou's
Ah,
daughter-in-law. So I was like
wow.
super cool about that. Got it on
That
video. If y'all like to see it, I'll post it in my YouTube page. But yeah, Maya Angelou, Shaq, Shah Rukh Khan. Those are my three.
those are some really good choices. Not definitely not who I was expecting.
Who did you think?
I don't know. I was kind of thinking along the lines of like I don't know, like Tamar Braxton or somebody, or the one woman from the War Room.
Priscilla Shire?
Yeah,
That's my mom's girl.
and the other woman.
Jackie Hill Perry?
No, not Chandra Pierce. Who's the other woman? That woman who's like the. She's basically like the female. Who's the guy from the Potter's house? I sound so terrible.
I don't know. The TD Jakes?
Yeah,
Oh,
she's like the female TD Jakes.
what, his daughter?
No, no,
Sarah
no,
Jakes?
no. She has like short hair. She has like a real dry. She's like a very common preacher. She actually has some really good messages. Yeah.
Oh, I know you're talking about.
How could I forget
She
her
just
name?
recently had some really not good plastic surgery.
Most likely, she's kind of older.
Joyce Myers.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Joyce Myers.
I love me some Joyce though. I love me
Yeah,
some Joyce Myers.
she's pretty cool.
She is. Let me go on record saying I'm not into the prosperity gospel stuff. And I think she tends to lean that way. However, I don't know all of her stuff, but why I stopped listening to her the last couple of sermons that I heard was along those lines. It turned me off because I've heard some stuff that was truth, like real truth come from like, oh, this is good. And then when I hear something that's really off,
Yeah,
I just tend to stop.
yeah. I think I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't sit down and watch back to back hours and hours and hours of her. But a few of the messages that I have heard, I'm like, yo, like God is really using this woman.
She's been through a lot. Did you hear her testimony? She comes through some real bad childhood trauma. And so I think, I was just at a women's conference, and a lot of times we pray for God to take away the bad situations that we're going through. And it's not that God doesn't want to take that away. I can't describe, I don't know, I'm not God, I don't know what's working in that situation. But what I know is that a lot of those situations push us to be very great. And a lot of
Yeah,
people that are very great come from some craziness.
that is so true. That is so true. I feel like obviously the outlook on that statement you have to be very careful with. Because we all know that one crackhead who's like, "Oh, thank you, Jesus, for this crack. It's making me better crackhead. It's the best crack that's changing my life. Thank you, Lord."
I could just watch them right now on the sidewalk going like this. They be digging down with their fingers and then the crack, and they finally find one. Hallelujah. No, yeah, I get it. Yeah, it's perspective.
Yeah,
Perspective. Well, I guess since you said that you didn't think it would be those three, I have a question for you.
sure.
Because it is about me, though. It's about the podcast. We kind of grew up in this cover of guilt, if you know what I'm talking about. Kind of like, are you sure you're supposed to be doing that? That's not Christian enough. That's not godly enough, or whatever it is. And I was telling my mom that I feel like sometimes I might think that God doesn't speak to me, but I feel like God speaks to me in ideas. Like, let's talk about my wedding, for instance. People might think I'm crazy that, like, I feel like God was speaking to me. But like I would sit there and I'm at work and something's like, you should have them do this. Like, and I don't think that comes from me. I feel like ideas, like even events, like, oh, I should do this and it brings people together.
Yeah,
I feel like that comes from God. That's the way I feel like God speaks to me. So I
yeah.
say all that to say I was in a place super discouraged about the whole job situation. I finished my degree in 2018.
Mm,
My graduation was in 2019. So 5 years now
mm,
I have been hustling, trying
yeah,
to find a job. I got a job. It's still not in my field. It doesn't pay enough, but it's what it is. Now, just recently, I got another job that is getting me an inch closer to in my field. It's getting me back into the hospital, but it's still like a lateral move. It's not really in healthcare administration. And I was super discouraged because I was like, I'm sick of filling out job applications. Like at this point, I don't care about the career. I just want something that's going to make enough money for me to make my ends meet and for me to be able to do the community service that I want to do and live the life that I want to live. Right.
Yeah.
At that time, I'm coming at this crossroads where I was helping my aunt with a project of hers. And she basically just said to me, she's like, Nisi, you're so smart. Like, you know this, you can do this on the computer, you do this. I just hope God makes room for your gifts
Yeah.
or something to that effect. And it was her saying that like just triggered me to be like, you know what? I'm just gonna do it. Like, cause I had already been hosting a show with my mom where we're talking about her book and I was asking her questions. And I was like, I like this. Like I immediately did an account, looked up Riverside, bought a microphone like that weekend
Boom,
and
boom, boom.
just started doing it. And then I was like, I'm not going to just do this. It's a means to an end. I want to do an event management and a passion project company, but this is going to be under it so I can draw people.
Yeah.
And I haven't stopped since then. But this is the question I'm going to ask you. It's not necessarily a Christian platform. And so that guilt of like, are you doing this for God?
Yeah.
Are you doing this for yourself? What now? It's an educational platform. I think it brings together topics that need to be talked about in our community, but it's not necessarily like everything Bible.
Right.
I feel guilty about that sometimes when I hear people say, like, you should be doing stuff for the kingdom. What do you feel about that?
Yeah, I definitely believe that as believers we are to stick out, we
Mm,
are to be in the world but not of it. Obviously, that may not look the same for everybody. Me personally, I'm not one to go beating down everybody's door saying, "Have you heard of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ?" But at the same time, if anybody asks me, I have no problem explaining to them. Like I don't hold back. You know what I mean? Like I'll have a Bible study with anybody.
right.
And that may not be the same case for you.
Mhm,
When it comes to something like a business, I can see how, people can say, oh, well, you call yourself a Christian, then you turn around and, your business has nothing to do with building the kingdom. It has nothing to do with, reaching souls. It's
mhm,
like, yeah, I see how people can personally have an issue with that. Really that comes down to, I mean, an individual's walk with God. I mean, if they love the Lord more than they love their personal gain,
mhm,
I mean, it's going to be inevitable. You're going to be working with all your might, and the light within you is going to show. Like
mm,
it's going to hit different.
mhm,
People are going to know, like, yo, like there's got to be a higher purpose for the kind of work that this guy's putting in, and then just through that, people are going to ask, so why is it? Where do you get all this energy from? Where do you get all this purpose from? And it's just going to show. You're not going to be able to hide that. I don't think it's really my business personally to come and ask you, like, are you pocketing all of this? Is this for your personal gain that you're running this business? Are you really using your gift the way God wants you to? Like that's not my place to judge.
right.
I mean, that's really your personal conviction. I mean, me personally, from me to you, I really hope that at the end of the day, you remember that we're blessed with our gifts and we're called to be stewards of everything that God has given us. At the end of the day, I still trust that your personal gain is not going to outweigh the purpose that you've been called to.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I trust.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think I know that, but there's that side where when people ask you, "Oh, what are you doing now?"
Yeah.
You got to explain. Okay, well, what is that about? So I'm still even at this I won't say old age, but old enough age.
Yeah.
There's still that struggle with trying to appease
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah.
I'll be happy when that's over. But until then,
People will be people.
people will be people, and we are out of here. Thank you so much for listening to the pod this time.
It's been real.
It's been real. It's been fun. Got a chance to really sit down and chat and dive into some things. And hopefully we'll be back again with another a free what is this? Freestyle.
That's right.
Is this a Friday? It's not Friday.
Not quite.
You can't say freestyle Friday. What can we say?
Freestyle Tuesday.
Is it Tuesday?
It's not.
um No, I have to think of something like, Mike Monday, no.
Mic drop Monday.
Mic drop Monday. There you go. Come on, DJ, up here. Mic drop Monday with my bro DJ. Are you my brother or nah?
All day.
All right. You heard it here all day. I will see you next time. I'm your host, Miss Y. Peace out. Bye.